just like we did in last week's and the first lesson. And then blocked in my different elements that I want to use. And we've kind of gotten it to the same point as that, as our rough concept. I'm ignoring I want to add these crazy bridges all around, and I'm just going to ignore those for now. We'll put those in the detailing stage at the end. But for now, I really just want to focus on the city and adding these buildings and getting them in the right perspective. So we have all these different elements laid out, and this is the point when we start going in, masking out our elements, doing any paint and cleanup work we need to do, and then on top of that, aligning them into the correct perspective. So I'm going to start off with this just foreground building on the left side, and I'll bring in the original reference. We have this building over here. I'm just going to grab it, create a new background layer so it's easy to see. And because we're working with single point perspective, I want to remove any vertical perspective we have in this image. So the way I'm going to do that is by using the ruler. I'm just going to pull out a line, and it's Control R to show and hide the ruler. I'm going to pull out a couple lines. And then Control T, we're just going to distort to get these verticals completely straight. And that looks pretty good. We're not going to worry about the horizontals for this one, and I'll show you why in a second. But I'm just going to mask this out, create a layer mask. And this is the point too where I do all the paint out work to get rid of these trees, but I'm going to skip that for now because I really just want to focus on perspective for now. So now that I have this, I'll create a smart object just to preserve the resolution and all the information. And I'm going to drag this right in. I can close this reference image. I'm going to hide everything for now just so it's easy to see. Control T for free transform. Flip that horizontally. And now we can just align this image to our grid. And you see I'm just moving it up and down and scaling it until it lines up to our grid. Now you're not always going to be able to do this, but if you find images that are similar perspective, a lot of the times you can just kind of scale it and nudge it until it works. So you can see something like that's working. And if I want to check this, I can hide our perspective grid. And I'll grab our original path, go back to the pen tool, and I can control copy, paste. And now I have a line here that I can move around and check to see if the perspective's actually working. It's a little off, and I can fix that. Another nice thing is I can create a new layer, and if I control click on this path, and I only have one of these lines selected, I can just create a line just to have it exactly where I need it to align an element perfectly. And something like that's starting to work. Now another thing, once I have this in the correct perspective and lined up right, if I wanted to move it back in Z depth, I can hit Control-T for free transform. By alt-clicking, I can set a new pivot point, and I can set the pivot point to my vanishing point right here. And now if I scale this image up and down, it's going to stay in the right perspective. So that's another way to align your elements in the right perspective. So that's the simplest way of getting an element from from being just wherever it's going to be in Z-depth to aligning it to your perspective grid just by moving and scaling and nudging it. But that only works if you have your original image is in a similar perspective to your plate already. So next I'm going to show you what we do when there's drastically different perspectives.